Good morning or good afternoon. This is lesson 9. This is for both 5th and 6th grade. We are going to be diving into lesson 9. Let's start with Christ, putting Christ first. Would you please pause the video and pray either by yourself or with your teacher? Go ahead and pause the video now. All right, scholars, let's dive in. We're in the book of Mark. We talked about this yesterday. The book of Matthew, or he's also known as Levi. He wrote his book to the Jews, and he focused on Jesus as king. That's why you see the Star of David and the crown in the icon for Matthew. For the book of Mark, it's an exclamation mark that's turned into a cross. The focus is obviously Jesus, but it's a fast-paced book. If you sit down and read it, the chapters are shorter and it moves really quickly. So we're in the book of Mark right now. Remember, Mark wrote the book. Mark was a scribe, but he mostly heard Peter's account, and he wrote this book based on what Peter, Jesus' disciple, said. Here's our verse. Tomorrow's the quiz. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, go. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me." Good. Try this on your own. Go ahead and pause it. See if you can do it on your own. Pause it now. All right, welcome back. Guys, you need to have that filled out on your paper. You are not allowed to use your packet tomorrow. So pay attention to the words you don't know and study them for your quiz tomorrow. That means after school today, you'll pull this packet out and you'll practice saying it again and again until you get it perfectly. You can even ask your parents, can you quiz me on this? Guys, why do we study the Bible? I love that squirrel. I tell it to you every day. Because the closer we examine something, the deeper we understand it. So we're studying the Bible closely. We're looking at words, we're asking questions, we're paraphrasing, we're answering prompts because close examination leads to a deeper understanding. So write that on your pattern statement. You'll need to know that for your quiz, and you won't be able to look at your packet tomorrow. Okay, today we're going to be, you can pause this if you need to. I'm going to move on. Today we're going to look at this question: why did people respond differently to Jesus? Why did they respond differently? So there's going to be a lot of different people and a lot of different responses, and we're going to ask, why did they respond differently? We're going to annotate a few verses in Mark 2, verses 18 to 28. And as always, we're going to retell using that theme or central idea of the passage. Just a quick review. You have 2 seconds for each, and I'm just going to put it up there. See if you can get it before I put it up. Ready? Top left is observation. Middle is interpretation. Good. The third stage of Bible study is application. Great. We're focused on just the first stage, observation. Step 1, you're going to have to know all 6 steps for your quiz. What's step 1? Annotate. Step 2, retell. Step 3, historical background. Step 4, writer's message. Step 5, gospel truth. Step 6, gospel in action. We're just focused on the first 2 right now. We will jump to interpretation in a little bit in a few lessons, okay? Here we go today. We're going to define, we're going to ask a question, we're going to answer a prompt, we're going to paraphrase, then we're going to summarize the text and answer a prompt. Pause this if you need to. These are scholars in 6th grade who have missing assignments for Word of God. Our quarter ends on Friday. Pause this if you need to, 6th grade, and make sure you get those handed in. Otherwise, those grades become 50% and stay as a 50%. We are going to look at the bottom of our paper. It says, watch this video, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, and you're going to look for who encounters Jesus. Encounter just means meets or interacts with. Who encounters Jesus and how do they respond? So we're looking for people who meet Jesus, who encounter him, and then what they do in response once they see him. So watch this clip and see who encounters Jesus and how they respond. All right, awesome. So at the bottom of your paper, it is, let's not look at that prompt yet. I want you to look at this question. It says, who encounters Jesus and how did they respond? So go ahead and pause the video. And actually, let me do the first one for you. The first one, just so you have an idea. Remember, the disciples were in the grain field, and the people who encountered Jesus were the Pharisees. So I'm going to write Pharisees, and you always spell their name with a capital P, that group of people. So I'm going to put the Pharisees, and then how did they respond? Well, they accused Jesus of breaking the Sabbath law. So I'm going to put they accused Jesus of breaking Sabbath law. Quickly, just do the other two together as a class. Pause the video, and then I'm going to show you two more examples. Go ahead and pause. All right, welcome back. So you might have had a little bit of different answers, but another group of people, by the way, this text, except for the Sabbath part, is right here. And I'm going to say another time it just says they, but I think it's the religious leaders. So I'm going to put R for religious leaders. Could have been the Pharisees, Sadducees. And I'm going to say they looked for a way to trap Jesus. Remember, they were watching him to see if he was going to heal the guy because the man with the withered hand came to Jesus in the synagogue on the Sabbath. And they were like, is he going to heal him on the Sabbath? Is he going to do work on the Sabbath? That was the issue. When Jesus and his disciples picked the grain, it was work. When Jesus healed the man, he was doing work. And the religious leaders were like, oh no, no work on the Sabbath. And remember, we talked about this before. They actually made extra laws to ensure that you didn't work, but they thought that their extra laws were just as important as God's laws. Okay, and then the last group of people we saw at the end was when the crowd came to him, and the unclean spirits is the third one I'm going to choose. They fell down before him whenever they saw Jesus. So I'm going to put the third group that encountered Jesus. You could have had a different one, but I'm going to put unclean spirits. And how did they respond? They cried out. And they would usually say, you are Jesus, the Son of God. And Jesus was like, shh. Okay, flip it to the next page. You can pause this if you need to. Here we go. Directions, read the text, and then we're going to annotate. Here we go. Again, he entered the synagogue. This is Jesus. And a man was there with a withered hand. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath so that they might accuse him. Remember? Because he'd be doing work and he'd be breaking the law, even though man made that piece part of the law. And he said to the man with the withered hand, come here. And he said to them, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to harm? To save life or to kill? But they were silent. Scholars, they're like, you're not allowed to do work. But Jesus is like, well, what if you're doing good for somebody and helping them? Do you think it's good to save someone or to kill them? And they couldn't answer. And he looked around, this is Jesus again, and he looked around at them with anger. Wow, Jesus got angry? Yes. Grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, stretch out your hand. Oh, Jesus is working on the Sabbath. He stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out and immediately held counsel with the Herodians against him, how to destroy him. So this group of people and this group of people, they got together. Normally they weren't friends, but because they were against Jesus, they were thinking in their minds, how can we destroy Jesus? So this group of people and this group of people, the Pharisees and the Herodians. Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the sea, and a great crowd followed from Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem and Idumea and from beyond the Jordan and from around Tyre and Sidon. Guys, don't circle these words. They're all just cities and locations. Okay, you don't have to define any of those. When the great crowd heard all that he was doing, they came to him. And he told his disciples to have a boat ready for him because of the crowd, lest they crush him. Wow, so he's standing beside the sea. There's such a big group of people. He thinks he's going to get crushed. So he's like, let me get out onto the boat. This is why he thought he was going to be crushed. For he had healed many, so that all who had diseases pressed around him to touch him. People crushed into him because they were like, if you just touch me, you'll make me well. And whenever the unclean spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God!" And he strictly ordered them not to make him known. Okay, let's define some critical or unknown words. I actually want you to pause and do this with your class. You're just going to define it together. So you're going to circle one of these words. Go ahead and take 30 seconds, pause the video, circle unknown words, and then talk about it as a class. All right, you should have circled some unknown words. Maybe you circled grieved, maybe you circled withered, maybe you circled synagogue. You're going to look up these words on Wordsmith. Remember, it's spelled like this. And you're going to come up with a definition with your class. I'm going to choose synagogue, and I'm going to put a capital D, and it is a place of worship. You may have had a different one. That's totally fine. All right, I've done my definition. Now I'm going to ask a question. I want you guys to come up with a question. So go ahead and pause the text and come up with a question about the text. Ask a question. Go ahead. Okay, I'm going to do mine now. I'm going to say, I'm going to highlight these words, anger and grieved. And I'm going to ask my question. I'm going to say, was Jesus angry or sad? Because grieved means like when someone dies, you feel grief. Was Jesus angry or sad? Like, I see that he's both here, so I'm just wondering that, okay? I don't have to answer that question right now. I'm just asking it. Now I have to answer the prompt. I'm going to comment on the parts of the text that apply to the prompt. I always look at the next page for the prompt. Why did people respond differently to Jesus? Ooh, this is tricky. So I'm thinking these people responded by plotting against him. So I'm going to say, let's see, these guys tried to destroy him. These guys, I'm just thinking through this. These unclean spirits fell down before him and cried out. These people, the crowd, they came to him. Some followed. So I'm going to say, let's see, the question is, why did they respond differently? I'm going to say, I'm thinking this through. Well, they responded because they wanted to be healed. They responded this way because they knew who Jesus was. They responded because they hated Jesus. So these people responded based on what they believed about Jesus. So I'm going to draw a line from these down here, and I'm going to put my A, and I'm going to say how they believed. Because what they believed, or maybe it should say what they believed. Because what they believed about Jesus determined how they responded. So that's verse 6, 7, 8, and 11. And I'm only going to pick one piece. For example, I might talk about the Pharisees and how they wanted to destroy Jesus, which showed they didn't believe he was God. All right, finally, I'm going to paraphrase the underlined portion. Paraphrase just means I'm going to rewrite it in my own words. So let's find the underlined portion. Here it is up here. And they watched Jesus to see whether he would heal him on the Sabbath, so they might accuse him. Okay, I'm going to put this in my own words. I'm going to put a capital P right there. And let's see. The religious leaders watched Jesus to see whether he would heal the man on the Sabbath. So I'm going to say the Pharisees tried to catch Jesus breaking the law. See how I completely rewrote it, but I'm saying the same thing. So if you were to read this verse, here's a good check. I'm just going to replace verse 2 with my words. Again, he entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. The Pharisees tried to catch Jesus breaking the law. Oh, now I know I need to add, by watching him closely. Wow, that's really good that I looked, because I feel like that's way better. And he said to the man with the withered hand, okay, that makes sense. Great. Now I dive over here and I do my retell. What was the text mostly about? I start by rephrasing. The text was mostly about and I'm going to write, I'm thinking about the text. The beginning part was about him healing the man on the Sabbath. Then he was teaching and healing by the sea. So I'm going to say the text was mostly about Jesus healing people and people responding differently to Jesus. You might have something different. That's totally fine. You can pause the video at any time. Why did people respond differently to Jesus is my prompt. Now, I already answered this over here, depending on what they believed about Jesus. So I'm going to start my race. I'm going to restate. People responded differently to Jesus because, and that's my R. So let me do it. Capital P. People responded differently to Jesus because, okay, that's my R. Now I just need to answer it. And I already answered it over here, what they believed about Jesus. So that doesn't make sense if I write it like that, so I need to make it make sense. People responded differently to Jesus because they believed, let me think, what they believed about Jesus. Oh, they believed different things about Jesus. Okay, now I'm going to cross off answer the question. Now I'm going to cite evidence. I'm going to say, instead of according to the text, I'm going to say, for example, the Pharisees. Oh, sorry, Siri. For example, the Pharisees believed he was not the Son of God, so they wanted to destroy him. Now you might be like, Mrs. Tyson, why did you quote destroy him? It's right here. They wanted to destroy him, and that's in verse 6. So I'm going to write verse 6. Okay, I already cited my evidence. Now I'm going to finish with this proves that. Oh, that doesn't make sense. I think I'm going to name how one other group responded. The crowd, however, quote, came to him. See right here, it says they came to him. I already did the work. That's in verse 8. I know that because this one says 9. So right before it is 8. They came to him, verse 8, because they believed Jesus could heal them. Okay, now I've shown two different groups. That's enough. Now I'm going to say this proves that. My last sentence. This proves that people treated Jesus differently based on their beliefs about him. Okay, guys, guess what? Make sure I have my period. I explained it. I think my retell is pretty accurate. At the top, this text was mostly about Jesus healing people and people responding differently to Jesus. Yep, because he healed the man with the withered hand and he healed the crowd. My prompt answer is accurate. People responded differently to Jesus because they believed different things about Jesus. For example, the Pharisees believed he was not the Son of God, so they wanted to destroy him. The crowd, however, came to him because they believed Jesus could heal them. This proves that people treated Jesus differently based on their beliefs about him. Great. And I use complete sentences. Yep, capital letters and periods. Let me make sure. Capital letter, period, period, capital letter, period, capital letter, period, capital letter, period. Good. All right, I'm done. I don't have an exit ticket for today, but I need to make sure my packet is complete. Scholars, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Praise God that we can respond to Jesus and we can believe that he is the true Son of God because he's given us his Spirit and his word. And I pray that today you respond to Jesus by hearing his voice, by believing in him, and then by trusting and obeying him. Love you guys. Bye-bye. Have a great day.